Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night session of the Sports Crib, uh, brought to you by the Sports Crib Network. Let's get all the little commercial stuff out of the way here and uh, get some sports done. But you can, if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe, hit that subscribe button and like button. And don't forget our Cash App is $JE King 3. And with that, let's get about our real business, which is talking about a little sports here. Good evening, Reggie. How you doing?
Always a pleasure to be with you, bro. Doing very good.
So, been a little while since you've been here, and then last week I missed the show. But how are things down there in Atlanta? I know the weather is so crazy everywhere. How is it down there? I mean,
cold and then warm, warm and then cold. Typical Atlanta weather. Nothing like a hurricane or tornado like or anything like that. So we're not that drastic, but just the ups and downs of Georgia weather. Extreme temperature swings.
No 3 inches of rain in 3 hours. Nothing like that going on.
No torrential downpour, but not like torrential downpour.
Yeah, well, I mean. Strange California season here. 70 this week, late, just barely in the 60s next week. But I mean, it's California. I'm not shoveling any snow, and I'm blessed to wake up in the morning. So,
yes, absolutely, always a blessing.
So, let's kind of go from there. The playoffs are on. Right now, Memphis is up by 5. The Lakers had went on an 8-0 run.
That's elimination game for Memphis?
Huh?
Elimination game for Memphis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the hardest one to get.
Game. Yeah. But Memphis is at home. So we'll see. Davis just worked his little thing inside, so it's a 3-point game now. So we'll see if Memphis can hold on to take one. So let's get right to the NBA. We got some other games coming up tonight too. Sacramento's playing, but let's talk about the 76ers.
Yeah.
The 76ers swept the Nets. I can't say that was ordinarily. I would not say that was a big deal. But
yeah, it's no surprise here for me, to be honest with
you. But they did sweep them without Embid playing in the last game.
Okay.
And now, with what has transpired with the Celtics giving your team new life, Embid gets an extra day's rest, at least an extra day's rest.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on the 76ers in round 2 now that it looks like they might have a fully healthy Embid, or at least 90% Embid?
My thoughts would be nothing to see here. I mean, nothing. There's nothing. I mean, there's no surprise here, James. I mean, I expected them to beat the Nets. When it comes down to some of these series, maybe it's a game. Maybe the team wins 2 games, but the conclusion's the same. So I don't really ever put too much stock in if a team beats a team in 2. Sometimes it's surprising when a team takes a team 7. I guess I'll give it that. But if a team wins a couple games or if the team doesn't win a couple games, no surprise if the team that I thought was going to win ends up pulling it out, which was the Nets. I thought the 76ers could win this in general. 76ers beat the Hawks, my Hawks, resting all their starters with our starters playing. So it's possible for you to win games. And you're seeing that more and more, James, now too, in the end of the season, in the playoffs, with teams resting certain starters not being there, and other teams having all their starters and barely beating them by single digits or barely getting over the hump. So I think it'll be a good series. We'll see who they're actually playing. I want to actually give Atlanta a shot. I don't think we actually have a shot, but I'm going to at least give us a small percentage of a shot. So we'll see who they're playing. If they end up playing the Celtics, it'll be an interesting series. I would have picked the Celtics over them going into it, so I probably would still do the same, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. Well, since you thought that may have been a foregone conclusion. Let's talk about this next question here, where we surprisingly have a number 8 seed, the Heat, with the number 1 seed, the Bucks, on the heels of elimination. They have a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, right?
Jimmy Butler drops 56.
Incredible.
Okay, I think he's averaged at least 40 in every playoff game.
Wow.
Better odds, the snowball or the Bucks?
Man, I chose the Bucks before this, James. Okay, and I thought they would win this series. But here's the thing that I discounted looking back at that. Of course, you can't know that Giannis was going to miss those 2 games that he missed. But in those games that Giannis missed, I thought that the Bucks would still be better than the Heat. But what I discounted was the fact that the Heat would have still had Jimmy Butler and Bam. Their best 2 players would have still been on their team when they were playing the other team, missing their MVP. So I underestimated the Heat. The Bucks are only as good to hang with the Heat with Giannis, and that doesn't even mean they'll beat them, but they would have needed Giannis this entire series. If they end up losing the series, I think that's what the autopsy would be, that they needed Giannis this entire series. You can't have your superstars in and out of the lineup and play certain teams. Like if this was the Nets, no disrespect to the Nets, but they don't have a Jimmy Butler or a Bam on the Nets. This is the Nets. I would have said that the Bucks could have rested. Giannis could have missed a game or 2 here and there, and they still take this series. But you're playing the Heat, and the Heat is a team, one of my sleeping giant teams. Sleeping giant teams to me are teams that are in the playoffs that have had finals experience, no matter what their seeding is. If you're a team in the playoffs and you've had finals experience, then there's a chance you can get hot down the stretch here. So looking at this, I guess I just discounted the Heat too much, man. And now the Bucks are back to the corner. 3-1 doesn't mean they can't come back from that, but it's a daunting task, especially if Jimmy keeps putting up 40 a game. That's incredible.
Well, they're playing tonight, I believe, and the Bucks will be playing for their lives.
Yes,
at home.
I can see that. I can see that.
Now, I want to talk about your team.
Yeah, man.
Because they won the other night, and Trae had 36 points, 13 assists. He scored the final 14 points, including the 3-point game winner. And when you look at the shot, you don't see one of his teammates embrace him. You see one that comes along and maybe he said, "Good shot, Trae," or something, but there was never any. I mean, usually the guys with the mop and the towels have to come out and mop up the floor after such a spectacular shot. I mean, what was he? 3 steps past the logo, maybe?
Yeah. That's a pure Trae Young 3. He takes those. Doesn't always make them, but he definitely takes them.
So should the Hawks build around Trae, or should they trade him? We've had this conversation before. I mean, like I said, he scored the last 14 points.
Yeah, man.
And I hate to, I know it's very old, but if not Trae, who?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at here now. I think the team has chose to stay the course of building around him right now. That's why we have Quinn Snyder versus Nate McMillan. We would have Nate if the team, I think, had chose Trae, because obviously got to a point in the year where we felt like one of them was going to have to go. I really feel like this is perplexing, man, because when you look at the guy's stats, minus efficiency, because his efficiency could be much better. But when you look at a guy that can casually give you 30 and 15, you think that this is a guy who, of course, you build around him, right? Of course, you build around a guy like that. You're not going to find a guy like that in the NBA randomly giving you 30 and 15. But, James, here's where the problem comes in. Problem comes in with all the dysfunction that you had on the team. his peers not voting him to an All-Star game. His peers voting him as one of the most underrated players. This all happened with the same calendar year, within the same few months. New second, third coach. It just seems dysfunctional, and I don't really know why. Now, me personally, there's no way I'm trading him this year. I'm going to stay the course. I just got Quinn Snyder here. I'm going to stay the course with that and see what happens, at least for another year. But fast forward a year, if we still middle of the ground, or middle of the pack, I should say, if you're still around 40-1 and 41, I'm not giving the guy another coach. I'm not giving him 4 coaches. He's only been in the league for like 5 years. He's already had 3. So I'm going to at least stay the course, because I think if you trade him, we'll get $4 quarters for $1. We're not going to end up getting the same player back. And I think it'll be the last acknowledgement that we probably should have taken Luka. And I think if there's anybody still on this team from a management standpoint that was around that time, they're probably not ready to admit that yet. But I think that trading Trae would be definitely, because the Dallas is not talking about trading Luka. They're hoping he stays. They're hoping he doesn't dump them. So it's a strange situation to be in with a player, James, that has the stats that he has. The efficiency is horrible. He's got to figure the efficiency out. But you can't argue that this kind of production, when you can get 30 and 15 and not even make the news cycle, is unique in the NBA. He's a great player.
Yes, sir. Yeah, got to go that way. I think I'm not sure if the Knicks are on TV or not. They might be on ESPN.
Yeah, they were on today. I don't know if the game was. I think it's one. The Cavs got to have it. That's one disappointing me a little bit there, James.
Yeah, well, the Knicks are ahead 3-1, and right now they're looking to close out the Cavs. They are ahead. I was looking for the score. Memphis is barely holding on here. It's 75-73. Memphis with 4.5 minutes left. But right now, the Knicks are doing their thing. And
they've looked better all series too, James. Like they've looked better. You know what I mean? That's another thing too. They've just played better than the Cavs the entire time.
Well, the Cavs still haven't worked out that Garland mix yet, and how that's exactly going to work out. But when you look at the trade,
I like the team too, man. I like the Cavs, bro. I really wanted them to go far. I like watching them.
Yeah. Well, what about the Knicks? Do you think that getting Jalen Brunson was actually turned out to be a bargain for them?
Yes. Anytime you can make a trade like that, and the team that you trade, so whenever a team trades a player, and then the team that traded him is watching said player in the playoffs, I think you did pretty good for yourself, because that's what's happening with Dallas right now. Dallas is watching him. The whole team's gone fishing, and they're watching the guy that you traded and you wouldn't give a contract to, doing what he does in New York. Yes, absolutely. It was better than I ever thought it would have been. Because when you first see something like that, you thought his dad or relationships had something to do with it, him being there in New York. But it's just worked out so well that I can't say that it wasn't. It's been great. New York's had a actual winning season. They seem to have a few of those every 2 or 3 decades. So this has been great for them.
Now, we all talked about the Warriors' road record.
Abysmal. Horrible, James.
10 and 28, maybe something like that.
It's a horrible record.
And almost the exact same record at home in reverse.
Yes, great.
So we saw them go down 2-0, and then we saw them at home come right back and even the series at 2-2.
Yeah.
Now, there were some bonehead plays. I mean, but Steph isn't the last player to call a timeout when they had none.
Man, pulled a Chris Webber, didn't he?
That's what I'm saying. I was just going to say, you can ask the Fab Five, about that. I'm sure Jalen had nightmares ringing in his head. So, but in that loss, the Kings' star player and most efficient player, Deontay Fox, fractured his finger.
I think it's like on a shooting hand too. I want to say
it is on his shooting hand.
Mm.
It's on his right hand, and it is on the tip of his finger where most shooters of his caliber guide the ball. Some guide it with their ring finger, but I think most do it with the middle finger. But anyway, I'm not a shooting coach. I'm not basketball guru. But anyway, point is he has a fractured finger, and of course, right now, he had practice today and whatnot, and they, said it was all right. And of course, he'll have a shot tonight before the game. And he says, if it's up to him, he'll play.
Amazing. I would love to see that happen. I'd love to see just how he does,
But is this the best chance for the Warriors to steal that game on the road that they need and then get a closeout at home? Because the format now is 1-1-1.
It's interesting because you wonder which one was it going to have to be, because we knew that the Warriors were going to have to get one somewhere on the road, and this probably is their best chance because looking at their roads records, they're not going to have many of the chances. And it's interesting too because from where their seeding is at, they're going to be on the road a lot. I think almost the entire playoffs, depending on who wins where. So I don't know, man. It's their best shot, but it's not the shot I wanted to see. I need to see them legit beat this Sacramento team because Sacramento has been giving it to them. They almost lost to Sacramento at home. So Sacramento's been giving them to them, but it's hard to imagine De'Aaron Fox not being able to play 100% and the Warriors still losing that game. It depends on what Fox can give them. If Fox can give them 90% of what he did or what he was, can the other guys pick it up? Sabonis has been kind of underwhelming. Maybe he picks it up or something. But I think it's their best chance. And if they get one on the road, then we already know what they're like at home. I think the series is theirs. When I saw that at the when I saw that he fractured his finger, I kind of already had given it up for them, to be honest with you. Okay. I felt like it was kind of over with. The series was kind of over with.
Well, with a minute and 45 seconds left, the Grizzlies have an 8-point lead. Just made that bucket.
What's the lead, Danger? You're breaking up when you said that.
The lead is now 10
for the Grizzlies.
For the Grizzlies, and and one, so it could be 11. There's what is it? A minute 40 seconds left.
Would that be so? If the Grizzlies win that game, does that take it to 3-1, or what does that take it to? 3-2?
It takes it to 3-2.
Okay.
If the Grizzlies win, it takes it to 3-2.
I still have the Lakers in that series. So
they're now Grizzlies are now up 87-74 with a minute 20 seconds left. Of course, if you remember the last game between LeBron and DeAndre Russell, that lead means absolutely
Russell
nothing.
got hot, hit those 2 3-pointers.
Yes, he did the same thing. He did the same thing coming out of the third. Bane just hit another one though. They can't afford the exchange, so
and they're in Memphis. I take, especially playing at the time they're playing. They're gonna be playing in Memphis.
Yeah, I think. It's a wrap. So let's go on to the next one. The Nuggets. They took the Timberwolves to 5. And Jokic had a triple-double in his last game. But I'm not sure when guys have this kind of effort. You know, Edwards said, that the most important thing to him personally was not getting swept. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts when a player makes a statement like that?
He didn't think his team was good enough to win it. That's what I think. I mean, you think, hey, I at least want to get one. That's what you're saying. And I think the embarrassment, maybe there's a certain pride that can be applauded for that. I'm an Anthony Edwards fan, so I'm not gonna be too hard on the guy. I think there's a certain amount of pride that comes with that. Like, my pride's not gonna let me get swept, so I don't want to get swept. But I think that the opposite side of that definitely can be interpreted as you didn't know if your team really had a shot. Like, you didn't really mention even wanting to win. You just mentioned not wanting to get swept. So that's not super encouraging to me.
I know this is not a boxing show, but to me, that's kind of like the fighter that says, I just wanted to go 10 rounds.
Right. Just didn't want to get knocked out. I don't care. Yeah. I don't think I want to win this fight, but at least I didn't get knocked out.
Right. I went 10 rounds with so-and-so. He kicked my ass every round, but, I stood up. Well, anyway. Okay. So I guess if you get paid to get an ass whooping, it just feels better. I'm not sure.
Well, at least with I don't. Maybe at some point he was just resigned that Denver's a better team. Now let's be honest with ourselves here. Denver is the better team from a seeding standpoint, from not being in a play-in standpoint. They've been a better team all year. I like what Minnesota is doing. The Gobert trade, I thought they overpaid a bit for that, but it is what it is. But I like the team. I like Minnesota. And I really like Ant a lot, especially he's from Georgia. Like him a lot. But Denver hasn't done anything to say they're not the better team. Like they except just not getting the respect as a better team. I think that a lot of us are saying we got to see it to believe it because they haven't really been past a certain point. But I really love the kid Jamal Murray. Jokic's going to do what Joker's been doing. And if Michael Porter Jr. keeps showing up, I think they got a good team. And maybe Ant just went out there and thought that they really didn't have a shot after getting on the court with him a while and feeling like his team is probably not as good.
Well, I mean, we'll see. Actually, that question that you just spoke will be answered because they will be playing the Suns.
Yeah, and that's my pick right there since they got KD. And I'm thinking like, at least that's my pick on paper. I've been nervous about that pick watching them play, but on paper it's my pick because it just seems so natural, and I want CP3 to get a ring. So it just seems so natural of a pick. But with all these guys like the Warriors, the Lakers, these other teams that have been in the finals, it wouldn't surprise me if any of them make it to the Western Conference Finals once they've all turned it on and they're actually healthy.
But okay. Once again, let me be the voice of reasoning here, okay? Booker scored 47.
Yeah, he's known.
Kevin Durant scored 31. A real quiet 31. Probably no one knew he even had 31.
Casual 31, for sure.
Casual 31. Yes. I mean, okay. So now, I believe it was, okay, the Clippers didn't have George or Kawhi.
No, they had Westbrook scoring like 30.
But there were, no, Westbrook only scored 14, I believe.
In that last game?
Yeah. I believe he scored 14 points.
Well, that doesn't do it for him. They need him to score 30 just to be in the game.
But with, I believe it was 1 minute and 20 seconds, this team, and like I said, without Leonard or George, had a chance to tie this game up. The score was 136 to 130. So I want to know, what do you think when these games against a crippled Clippers team were so close? And number two, I guess, this will be the question. Do you think that the Clippers are going to bring Russ back? Ty Lue says, if you can get more money somewhere else, we're open. But Westbrook is due a ton of money next season.
Yeah. This is a two. So let me answer the first question first. Concerning. So this is concerning in the sense that what really started to shake my faith in this pick actually happened at the end of the season when the Suns barely beat a Nuggets team that was resting its starters. So when the Suns barely beat that team and there was not a starter out there, that's when I started to get a little concerned about my Suns pick. Like, I don't know, man. I think they can do it. I still think they can. And if there's any kind of favoritism in there, it's probably the Chris Paul pushing that slightly over the line for me for the Suns. I really want to see him get a ring. But they still got to go out there and earn it. And I don't have a ton of faith in that pick, just due to the games that we've discussed. They've had underwhelming performances with teams that haven't been at full power. So I don't know if they're playing down the competition, and maybe we get a chance to see them play up the competition. I mean, they're going to be going against the Nuggets next series. So that's going to be an interesting watch. It's going to be an interesting watch because now we'll get a chance for both teams to prove kind of to themselves, right? People hating on Denver. Well, you want to get rid of that hate, knock out that Kevin Durant Suns team. People looking at the Suns like, I don't know, you guys have been kind of just barely getting over the hump. They're going to actually have to beat that Denver team with their starters playing when you barely beat them without their starters. So it'll be an interesting series, and I feel like a lot of questions are going to be answered during that series because as much as I do like the Suns, it's not like I'm beating my chest about that pick. They can catch it, and I've seen them play underwhelming in other games. The Clippers situation is interesting because with the Kawhi news coming out about him having another meniscus tear today, you kind of have to wonder because I don't think they can trade Kawhi. He's got 2 years left on his contract. I don't know if he should just retire. I personally think that he should be close to it. He's already going to be a Hall of Famer. He might as well hang him up. I think he still can get paid a good portion of this, or he might just sit it out because it is a lot of money too. He's owed a lot of money. So if he can ride it out and get whatever that money is, I'm pretty sure you're going to do that first before you entertain any retirement plans, unless there's I don't know if there's a buyout situation available. I'm not sure how that happens, but I think he's got a couple of years left there. I think the Clippers should try to bring Russ back at what they can bring him back at, James. They ain't got to pay him nothing. I mean, they don't have the money to pay him. So it's kind of like if he comes back, they'll be paying him what, $3-4 million? He can get more than that somewhere else. Now, if you're Russ,
3.4, I believe, is the max that he can get from the Clippers.
He'll go from what, 47 or so this year down to 3-4 next year. I think he can get at least 10 just based off what we just saw this last few games. I think a team at least give him 10.
Can you get an OBJ contract?
Right. OBJ didn't even play for a year and came back and got almost 20 million. So he should be using that contract as an example. Like it's a whole different sport. But if this guy's getting paid like this, ain't no way in the world I'm leaving it all on the court out here getting paid 3. But I don't know, man. I feel like at that cost 3-4, yes, definitely, because there's no negotiating room. I mean, I don't think they have the money, so it's kind of like it is what it is at where it is now.
That's it. I mean, unless they find a goose that lays a golden egg, or like you say, I think Kawhi is still owed that money regardless, as far as his contract is concerned. I'm not sure about George's contract, but this is the NBA where contracts are guaranteed, right?
Yes, it is. It is. And the last option is a player option, which I guarantee he will be exercising that player option. So I think that he will be offered other things. The big question, I think the bigger question is, James, in a situation like this where a team can't really pay a player, what does a player want to do? Do you say I made so much money that I'm already in LA? I really like the fit. I really like playing for this team, and then I hang back.
He's only made, I think, give or take $25 million. I believe he's only made like $350 million since he's been playing.
Right. He's finishing up a $205 million contract that has been played to completion.
Yeah. So, I mean, over $250 million. I mean, he can afford to play for 3.4.
You can definitely afford to play for 3, and everything is not money, right? So it depends on just how much you say you want. Now you hear people say all the time that people even with billions of dollars want more money. Nobody ever says they have enough. But at the same time, if you're happy, don't try to get happier than happy. If you're already happy, it just depends on that. Like, would you go out to Toronto, calls you tomorrow and says, "Hey, we'll pay you 15 in Toronto." Do you fly up Toronto now? You're playing for the Raptors, like. I don't know how much stomach he has for that. He's been getting traded around. He'll be on like 7 teams if he does that.
Yeah. But if you get paid by everyone, it doesn't.
Yeah, and 3 is such a low bar, James. I really feel like a lot of teams can reach that. You know what I mean? 3 is a very low bar.
Yeah, but let's talk about worth and performance. I mean, there are days when he's a $1 million player.
Most of those days were playing with the Lakers.
And like I said, I mean, this last game he scored 14 points, had some very terrible turnovers.
Yeah, his efficiency wasn't great either. So, this last game, but he was the only game in town, and all they really did have to do is take him away. And I'm not really going to lean, even though I do like Terrence Mann, who's on my fantasy basketball team. These aren't players I'm going to lean on in a playoff situation. So who knows? And with the injuries, I don't even know what this team's going to like with the injury situation being what it is. It's been disappointing since Kawhi got there.
Well, speaking of being disappointing, everyone says that the Rockets were tanking this year, but they do have a new coach. They hired Nduka as their new coach. Do you think he can be as successful in the West as he was in the East with the Celtics? Or do you
I don't know. Rockets is a very different team than the Celtics organization. Celtics is a winning organization. I'm not saying the Rockets as a team and as a culture aren't the Celtics, but I would have to see it to believe it. Because the Celtics have just been they're one of those teams that's been good almost my entire life, opposite of the Knicks. You know what I mean? They've been good my entire life, the Celtics have. In one way or the other. I'm not saying every single year, but most years they've been putting a decent team on the floor. Houston has had some issues the last couple of years with this roster. They're pretty young. I guess we'll see, but I think that when you're coaching Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, it's a little different. Like, those are 2 great players already. And there are a couple kids down there that I do like. I like the kid Jalen Green. There's a couple kids down there I like in Houston, but I have to see it come together before they shouldn't even be close. I mean, before I can think they can be successful in the Western Conference, they need to be successful anywhere. They're an unsuccessful team in any conference at this particular point. I would just need to see them be successful. Can you just start winning games? Can you start just getting over the hump? As the kids mature, I'm pretty sure things will get better for them, and we'll see what they do in the draft. They should be picking pretty high. So we'll see kind of what they put together. I do believe in coaches kind of tipping the scale when both teams are even, but I think the teams matter more. And then you look at the coaches.
Now, I'm not sure if you were here during the show where we discussed that there may be a possibility of the Beard returning to Houston.
Yeah, I've been reading that.
Has the hiring of Nduka heightened, the think that he may go back to Houston, or has the hiring of Nduka sealed the fate that he will not be back in Houston?
I don't know if it sealed the fate that he wouldn't. I've never heard him say anything negative about him. When he was in Boston, when Ime was in Boston, I've never heard him say anything, Harden say anything negative about him. I don't think it moves the meter a ton. I think what's going to move the meter more, of course, you always have the money question, right? So always the money. What kind of team do you want to play for? I don't know if I'm leaving the 76ers to go to the Rockets from a team perspective. If it's a situation where you're just happier in Houston, you spent a lot of your formative years there, you grew up there, kind of there, right? He's been there for a while, was the face of that team. Maybe you're just kind of homesick to a certain degree. I'm not saying he's from Houston, but in the sense of that's where he came from and had a lot of success there, where he was there for an extended period of time. He was only in Brooklyn for a year or two. That wouldn't surprise me. But I think that if you're looking at it from a basketball perspective, it surprised me. I don't know why you would leave the 76ers or leave Embiid from a basketball perspective to go to Houston, unless you just know something that I don't. And I don't think the coach would matter when it comes to that, because you got to have the players. I mean, Ime's not going to be lacing them up. He's not going to be running around out there. So his success is going to depend on what product he can put on the floor. They will be better with the beard, but I'm not even convinced right now, James, that even that moves the meter a ton. Like, if they could announce it tomorrow, James Harden going back to Houston, they still might not be a play-in team. I don't know what to expect from that team.
No, I think you definitely have to wait until after the draft.
See what they got, right?
Free agency and all that. I mean, you're leaving a team with depth and playoff expectations every year.
Yes.
So
the team is picking in a lottery for the last couple of years. It's a very big drop if he was to pull that move.
And you're playing in the West. Okay.
Yes, things are no easier there, as you saw this year.
But I heard you speaking of fantasy a little while ago, and I happened to pick this young man up in my fantasy basketball league. The Magic's Ranchero. He's been
he's on one of my teams too. I picked him up also. He's been pretty good for me for most of the year. I can't complain.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts on him being the rookie of the year? I kind of thought he was the shoe-in from the beginning.
Yes.
Especially from the way he started out. I believe
he started off so hot, bro.
I mean, he gave us like 4 or 5 30-point games, like right off the bat.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. He started that momentum, James, coming into the year, and in my opinion, did nothing to lose that momentum. You know what I mean? Like, he kind of started there, and there was nothing I could say, well, this got screwed up, or, well, look here. Of course, there was injuries, and his play fell off, but it started off so hot that I think most players aren't going to score 30 a night. So, of course, he's going to have some fall off. But if not him, who? Like, for people who would pick somebody else. I had two. I had Jaden Ivey and I had Banchero. And Ivey did pretty good for me. But I think that Banchero's a better player more consistently throughout the year than some of the other rookies. I think Keegan Murray is going to be all rookie team, I heard. So that's interesting. And I like Keegan Murray coming into the year. But, yeah, I don't think this is much of a race, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know whether it was surprise, because a lot of times when you take these young guys, especially that were drafted so high, they turn out to be all right. But I'm looking for, I think this is a kid that, and I'm sure the Magic do too. This is a kid that they can build around.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure when you talk Celtics and Bucks and 76ers, how quickly they can become a viable team. I kind of look at them not quite with the same disdain as I do the Rockets, but I do think that they're in a very similar situation, and that they will always be a bottom feeder.
They're a player or two away. That's why. Like, when you look at other teams, there's a couple guys. All the top heavy teams have a couple guys, right? So you have Giannis, Middleton, Drew Holiday on one team, and then you got Harden, Embiid, Maxi's coming on for the 76ers. Tobias Harris on given days can be that guy. Celtics got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and once you get through those few teams, it takes more. It's going to take more than a player. Like, he has other players on his team, but not legit ones, and he's young himself. So until they fix that roster in that sense, James, and I don't see anything really changing for this team. I don't know if they're bad enough. I'm not sure where they're picking at in this year's draft, but I don't see it for them anytime in their future without adding another player.
Let's see. It's 6 minutes and 28 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. The Grizzlies are still ahead, 106-89 over the Lakers.
Increased it, huh?
Yes. Lost the train of thought there, but I'm sure I'll get
Here
it.
went Wembanyama. That's where we at.
No, there was something that you had brought to my mind before we went to Wembanyama.
We're talking about the Magic and the players. They need more players. I don't. Sometimes James, when you're looking at these rosters, you can look at the rosters themselves and just see they need more players. Like I don't even see them beating other teams on paper right now. Like at least with Atlanta, we're just underperforming. I can look at our team and feel like we could beat teams. We're just underperforming. We have players. We look at a team like the Magic. I think they have a reason they're not beating teams. They don't have the players. So
Yeah,
that needs to get figured out before they figure out anything. That goes to what I was saying about the coaching situation. They could hire whoever they want as coach down there. If the Magic were to hire somebody, and it wouldn't change fortunes, in my opinion, until you figure out who the players are going to be. Who's going to be your one? Who's going to be your two? You got to have your first two figured out, James. You got to have those first two players figured out.
Now let's go to the Wembanyama question, because do the Spurs have the first two figured out, or is Wembanyama the answer?
No, they don't. They don't, because they traded one to us. DeJounte would have been one of them. You know what I mean? He got traded to Atlanta. So I don't know what the Spurs are doing. And it's no guarantee they even get the guy, right? That's another thing, too. With the lottery, James, there's no guarantee that Wembanyama's walking through there. Maybe they're looking for shades of.
You don't think he's going to be the next Banchero?
I don't know. I don't know how good this kid can be, because I've seen it a lot of times throughout life. Like, I don't know how good the kid can be. And even if he is, let's say he's everything that everybody says he's going to be, and he exceeds. Let's say he pulls a LeBron James, he's everything. And I really think he would have to do that, because LeBron was able to almost single-handedly take Cleveland out of the gutter, so to speak. But they were in the gutter in the East. It's different being in the gutter in the West, for one. So that's one thing you got to deal with. Is the conferences. Another thing you have to deal with is I just legit don't know who the Spurs have on their team. If it wasn't for fantasy basketball this year, I wouldn't know them at all, because I had to stream a couple of these players. So if I didn't have to stream a couple of these guys throughout the year, I would know nobody on their roster. So you're starting with one. And it looks like a lot of these teams that are banking on Wembanyama are going all in on him, like the Jazz too. At least the Jazz got market in there. Like they're going all in on trying to get the kid. So once we see kind of where that, because if they don't get him, oh my goodness, because I'm talking about them sucking with him, James. Like if he was to come out, I don't think they're going to be good. They haven't done anything this year to say that they are. So it'd be exciting for the Spurs in the sense that maybe shades of Tim Duncan and the Admiral, David Robinson, maybe shades of those two guys, and then they build out from there, even though that was yesterday's game. That's not really today's game. But the kid can shoot perimeter, though. So here's the hope, and he does, I guess, become a Spurs star. I mean, they've had their run. They haven't sucked the last 20 years. So I'm not really I won't be sad if he doesn't go to the Spurs, but the Spurs are in kind of a sad state. I mean, there's no Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan's not coming through there. At least he is coming through there, but he's clapping on the bench in a button up. He's not like running around out there. So I don't know. Maybe they get the kid, hopefully. So I guess if you're a Spurs fan, I'm not really a Spurs fan. I like Pop though, but I don't think they're just going to change fortunes for them unless they get another player, especially in the West.
Don, how you doing this evening?
Doing good, James. I'm very frustrated right now, but I'll survive.
Oh my goodness! Anything you want to share?
About 2 months ago, I parked downtown San Antonio, paid my parking. It cost like $30 to park down there. But ever since, I've been getting these notices from collection agencies saying they didn't pay my parking. I'm like, I did. So I had to go to my bank statement, find the bank statement, make a copy. There's a lot of scams going on, and so it's just something up there to piss me off, I guess.
Yeah.
Yet another reason not to like San Antonio right now.
But San Antonio, two cities that I really like in Texas are Austin and San Antonio. Not a big Dallas fan, and I certainly don't like Houston, but mostly personal reasons. But we won't go into that. But anyway, Donna, we were talking about the Spurs, and have you heard anything about this kid Winnebago that they want to pick up?
I've heard, just rumors and a lot of gossip, maybe scuttlebutt, whatever you want to call it. But the Spurs need help. That's obvious. I mean, every once in a while they'll win a game they shouldn't win, but for the most part they have no fire. I mean, they're so they do need help. Hopefully through the draft, maybe free agency, but San Antonio is not the destination spot that some places are. We saw that with Kawhi Leonard, how he kind of like tanked the whole season just to get out of San Antonio. Some guys, like Manu and Parker and Tim Duncan, those guys, they enjoy the small town, small market, I guess. But those are rarities. That was like a perfect storm to get those three on the same team.
Reggie, the Knicks have eliminated the Cavs.
Crazy, man. It's crazy.
What was it? Brunson scored 23, and this is their first playoff series win since 2013. So It's been a while since the Knicks had a playoff series win.
Worth the money, man. That was a trade that was worth the money for them. If Dallas is sitting at home right now, it's got to hurt. Dallas is Western Conference Finals last year, and now you're watching a guy that you traded take his team to the next round of the playoffs. That's got to suck,
Yeah. Well, the draft is tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, finally.
Don, how many QBs are going to be taken in the first round?
First round, I'll say at least two. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud for sure. So those will be the first two taken.
So you think just two or more?
I think just two.
What's your thoughts there, Reggie? I've been hearing a lot about Levis here lately.
I think it's going to be four. I think four are going to go. I think it'll be Bryce Young's. I don't know this order because the Panthers, you don't really know what that pick is. They've been saying they don't know. They say they know what the pick is now. But I'm hearing all kinds of things. So for one thing, guys, we're in this time. We're in the BS season of the draft. Like draft week is BS season in the NFL. You got a lot of teams that are gonna throw up smoke signals because they want a guy to drop to them or stuff like that. So you don't really ever know who is going to take who. I do believe that Anthony Richardson. I would be surprised if Richardson gets out of the top 15, 20. And to be honest with you, probably all four of those guys, all four of those QBs, Bryce Young, not Will Anderson, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. I think all four of those guys are going. And guys, don't be surprised if Hooker. I'm hearing a lot about Hooker. He didn't even play last year. Hearing a lot that he might go. So I think in those first 30 picks, I think there's going to at least be four guys, but I think it could be five if somebody really likes Hooker. And I just think that's because the position itself has become so important that you can have everything else figured out on your team. I mean, we don't have many 2000 Ravens out there, guys. Like we're Ray Lewis and you got other players on the defense. You get a Trent Dilfer to get you over the line type situation. Like you're going to have a competent quarterback in today's league. And seeing this Texans not taking a quarterback, I'm not sure what the hell. Here comes Houston again, being the dumpster fire that it's been as of late. And I'm not sure if Houston should definitely take a QB of some sort. I like Will Anderson for Alabama. Believe me, I like him. But the Texans need a quarterback or they're going to suck. I'm not sure they can take Case Keenum into next season and feel like they're going to have extended success with Case Keenum.
Well, they also have the other kid, right?
the kid Davis Mills that played last year.
Yeah.
Man, that's true. He is there, I guess. I'm not sure what you do with that. I mean, but look, he played last year. Look where they're picking this year. I mean, they're picking second overall. Very close to picking first if it wasn't for Lovey.
Okay.
Picking second.
All right. Don says 2. You say 4. Guys, and maybe it looks hard deceiving, and maybe it's just me being old school, but when you look at Will Levis, guys, I mean, this guy could have been, a model for David and Adonis. I mean, this guy is really built. I mean, you would think that maybe he was a tight end or a running back. Don, what's your first impression when you look at this kid as a quarterback? I know he has a cannon and all that, but I mean, we've talked about smallish quarterbacks, but I mean, my God, if this guy's got mobility and move, I mean, Don, what's your thoughts? Like I said, to me, it looks more like a running back.
Wow. Well, in recent years, the smaller quarterbacks have been making somewhat of an appearance in the NFL. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But Baker Mayfield is right at 6 foot, and he had some great games, and then all of a sudden he just kind of fell apart. So I don't know. When you take the smaller athletic quarterback, sometimes it works for a while, but then eventually I think it just kind of wears off the novelty. And I think defenses are keying up on that, and brute strength often overcomes the athleticism. So we'll see how it works out for him.
What do you think, Reggie? Because I'm thinking of Josh Allen.
When you see Will Levis?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at how big he is and the load that he might have to carry if he comes into the NFL, I mean, I'm just thinking first impressions. When you, like I said, when you look at him, the last position I think that you would think that he was on the field was a quarterback.
I think he has a very similar issue to Anthony Richardson. Like when you look at Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
the combine winner, they have very similar measurables. Both of them look like out of central casting for quarterbacking. When you look at the players, both of them do. And if Bryce Young had even 2/3 of their measurables, then he'd be unquestionable number one pick. I think one of the things that's a knock on the Bryce Young situation is that it's not just his height, it's his size. People are scared that at 185 he's going to get killed out there. And I think that that's a legit concern. I will say that with Will Levis, I don't know. I'm not all the way convinced. He's one of those kind of guys that can come along, James, and maybe he ends up being that guy. He comes along, maybe he ends up being that guy. Maybe. But I don't know. I haven't seen enough on tape for me to say that he is. But the conversation we're having now, guys, is why I think somebody's going to reach for him. I think somebody's going to take him. Because when you have those kind of measurables like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, you got to prove that you can't play. It's the opposite of smaller guys. Smaller guys got to prove they can play. Bigger guys got to prove they can't play. And somebody's going to go and take those guys because of their measurables.
Kind of like Kyler Murray.
Yeah, for sure. He had to prove it through Texas, right? Kyler Murray came out of Texas perfect. People are still doubting him. So you have to really go out there and put up superb numbers, whereas you can have a middling record if you're a guy that's over 6 feet. You can have a middling record, be okay in college, and people are still going to reach for you in the first round.
Yeah. Look, like you said, look at Kyler Murray. Now he has a statue in Oklahoma.
Right.
Okay, so I took two top 10 projections here. I know I said top 5, but I took 2 top 10 and it was because of the way things changed so much after the top 5. But media analyst for NFL, Charles Davis, said that the Panthers would take Bryce Young first. The Texans would take Will Anderson, which, I think that might be very doubtful. I think that unless the Texans start getting a lot of calls about this number 2 pick, and
I would move out of it before I would take a defensive end that high.
So anyway, Will has the Texans taking Will Anderson Jr. He has the Cardinals taking Paris Johnson Jr. He has the Colts taking C.J. Stroud. I'm sure if C.J. fell down to number 4,
Colts would love that, by the way.
Would love that.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm sure the Cardinals would be getting a bunch of calls at number 3 if C.J. Stroud is still there. But anyway, we'll move on. The Seahawks taking Jalen Clark at number 5. The Lions taking Devin Witherspoon at number 6. The Raiders taking Tyree Wilson at number 7. The Falcons taking Christian Gonzalez at number 8. The Bears taking Darnell Wright. And Bijan falling to the Eagles at number 10. Another pick that I don't think Bijan will be there when the Eagles are there at number 10, but we'll see. In a contrasting mock draft, Sports Illustrated, Albert Beer's mock draft was he agreed that the Panthers would take Bryce Young at number 1. But then he said the Texans would take Tyree Wilson. And Will Anderson Jr. would fall to the Cardinals. Once again, falling to number 4, the Colts get C.J. Stroud, Jalen Carter at 5. Then it gets a little interesting. The Lions still get Witherspoon, but we get the Raiders taking Stonansky at number 7, offensive lineman. The Falcons taking another offensive lineman, Lucas Van Ness.
He's actually D end. He's a defensive end.
Yeah. Is it D end? Okay, D end. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I mean the Bears taking Paris Johnson, and the Eagles taking Christian Gonzalez. What do you think of these projections there as far as your Falcons are concerned, picking in that top 10 spot at number 8?
I don't see either one. Christian Gonzalez. I think that we've done a good job addressing our secondary. I don't really want to address that again. We've done that. We've addressed it through the free agency this year. So I would love to see us take a defensive end here. But there's a couple people I wouldn't mind here. Like if we were to take Bijan Robinson, I'm not crying about that. Great skill player, catches the ball. I'm not going to be upset if that happens. Offensive linemen, a lot of times, guys, they're not the sexiest pick, but they play immediately and they play a long time a lot of times. So if you can plug those guys in, okay, I'll take that if we have to. But my personal preference would be a defensive end. So if I had to choose between these 2 drafts of which one I would want, I'll take the kid Van Ness out of Iowa. I would take him before I would take Christian Gonzalez, although Christian Gonzalez has been high on a lot of draft boards. A lot of people like him a lot.
Is there a possibility that you would trade up for Will Levis if he's on the board?
Oh, man, that's give me a stomach ache, man. I don't want to do that. No. Let's replace our question mark at quarterback with another question mark at quarterback. No, we have one rookie. If you're a team, guys, that needs the benefit, because now it's a benefit to have a rookie contract on your books. If you have a rookie quarterback contract on your books and that guy turns out to be something, that's beneficial. So if you're looking for that, then
ask the Bengals. Call the Bengals front office and ask them.
You have to, exactly, because then you can put things around that person. So if you're looking for a rookie contract quarterback, Will Levis, I don't think we need 2 rookie contract quarterbacks here, because that's basically 2 question marks now. And the only other quarterback I would take is if somehow C.J. Stroud slid all the way, then I would take him. But I wouldn't take Levis or Richardson at that 8 spot.
Okay. Do you have another guy in mind that if you didn't take Van Ness or Gonzalez?
Well, Tyree Wilson's been all up and down this board, guys. Like, so my very first mock draft that I looked at a few years ago, not a few years ago, I'm sorry, a couple months ago, had us taking Tyree Wilson. So Tyree Wilson's done pretty good for himself. He's moved all the way up, and so to where a lot of people don't feel like he's going to be there at 8 for us. But if a player like that falls, and I was hoping that people would sour on Jalen Carter so much he'll slide down to us, but I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. So those are the guys I like. If we end up taking Christian Gonzalez too, that's another thing. He's like my last pick. But if we end up taking him, I'm not gonna cry about it, only because people seem to really like him a lot. People a lot smarter than me seem to like him a lot. So take him if he ends up being there.
Don, you seem to think there's only going to be 2 quarterbacks in that first round. So who do you think are going to be drafted in place of either Robinson or Levis?
Okay, so you asked me.
Reggie is saying that there's going to be 4 quarterbacks picked in the first round. You're saying that there's only going to be 2. So I'm thinking that you're going with CJ and
Bryce.
And Bryce. So who do you think are going to take? Who do you think is going to be picked in place of either Levis or Anderson? Do you think that there's a defensive end, a defensive player that's going to be taken?
Yeah, so we're
a lineman.
Yeah, so someone, in my opinion, someone like Jalen Carter, the kid out of Georgia. I mean, that guy. In some years, he would be probably a top 2 pick.
Sure.
It's just this draft is a little bit different. I know he's had some maybe off-field issues, but the guy is like, I'm not going to say he's the Gummin and Sue, but he's kind of on that level. Tyree Wilson, he could fit into somewhere for someone looking for a quarterback. I mean, if you weren't looking for a quarterback, he might be someone. Lucas Van Ness, I mean, he's got a great motor. So yeah, there's several players that you could draft instead of a quarterback. I mean, I'm just thinking about right now the quarterback situation in the NFL, the teams that need them. And I know we'll probably talk about Aaron Rodgers later, but will him moving to the Jets, will that have a ripple effect throughout the league? And so, that's kind of a monkey wrench that probably got thrown into everyone's mock draft.
Since you mentioned it, Don, I'm going to let you tackle a question. What do you think the Packers will do in their first draft without Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I'm thinking, if I remember right, the Packers were actually looking for some like front 7 type people on the defense. So they'll probably go with the defensive end or defensive tackle, maybe a linebacker. I think expectations in Green Bay are going to be kind of muted just a little bit this year because of the changeover. They're going to have to, break in a new quarterback, and that's always tough. But, they might strike lightning. You never know because, when Brett Favre left, they had Aaron Rodgers. So, they might be replacing a Hall of Famer with a future Hall of Famer. You just never know how the league goes. But I think they'll go for someone in the front 7 on the defense.
Reggie, what's your thoughts about the Packers in their first draft post Aaron Rodgers?
I saw the GM note there. It said the team is not looking to rebuild. And sometimes general managers say that, and their team doesn't agree with them. Like when I look at the team, with no Aaron Rodgers, that screams rebuild to me. I don't. Maybe Jordan Love ends up being that guy, but the problem is with Jordan Love is we've seen him. Whereas when the first time we saw Aaron Rodgers, that stretch lasted for what, 15 years or so, 14 years. We saw him for one time. He was out there for 14 years. We've seen Jordan Love oscillate back and forth. Now, from what I hear, there's supposed to be a situation now where, from what Aaron says, and it's the same from what I hear, from what Aaron says, he thinks that Jordan Love has made some strides this year, and he thinks that Jordan Love is ready to take over. And it would just surprise me, guys, to lose a player of Aaron Rodgers' caliber and still not feel any effect from that. You know what I mean? Like, it will be surprising because, guys, you can argue they were struggling with him towards the end of last year. Like, he was around and they were still struggling. So I don't see how they lose him and get better. I guess that's where I'm getting at. Like, I don't see what makes you think that you lose Aaron Rodgers and your team improves when your team was kind of underwhelming with him last year and the same players around him.
So are you drafting a quarterback if you're the Packers, or are you riding Jordan Love?
You have to ride Jordan Love, man. Like, you already drafted him and you've said so much stuff about him. You got to put him out there. Maybe you draft him a receiver. Maybe you draft somebody to no lineman to protect him. I'm not sure what his deficiencies are because we haven't really seen him play for an extended period of time. But I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback because I don't think a quarterback that they would want to draft is going to fall to them. Maybe they have the luxury. So if you talk about a team that does have the luxury of taking one of these, like a Hendon Hooker or Herndon Hooker, if you want a team that has a luxury of taking a player like that, it's a team like the Packers that already has their starter for sure this year. Because I don't think that if they do take a quarterback, they should not start Jordan Love. We got to see what Jordan Love is, and I think he has to start this year no matter what happens with the Packers.
Reggie, how important do you think the draft is to the future of Bill Belichick?
It shouldn't be that important, but it's interesting from what I'm hearing. Like, it's interesting.
I mean, he hasn't won since Brady left, and I mean,
wasn't he in the playoffs one year? I want to say he had one playoff. Mac Jones took him to the dance. I think he's had a couple of winning seasons with Mac, or one that was like right there, middle of the pack. I know when he had Cam out there, Cam was sticking it up.
I think wasn't that before we started the 17-game season? They might have been 8-8 or something.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it and see. But I know that he had one decent season with Mac Jones out there. I don't think that he deserves to be, because a lot of times people compare Bill Belichick to Tom Brady and look at their success, and they say, well, this is just definitive proof that Tom Brady was the success for the New England Patriots. But one of the key differences, guys, that people don't mention is Brady was able to pick his team. He went to a team that Jameis Winston had 5,000 yards on the previous year. He went to that team. So he was able to pick all his skill players, and he was able to take Gronkowski with him when he went there. So if Bill Belichick was able to just look around the league and say, hey, I want to go coach that team, then he would probably have success. But he doesn't get he didn't get to do that. He gets to be saddled with the team that you have with a legendary quarterback leaving and a salary cap. It's not him and Tom Brady's situation aren't comparable to me. Tom Brady was literally able to close his eyes and go pick any team was going to take him. So I don't think the comparisons are fair, but this is a business at the end of the day, guys. And we've seen coaches get it. Look what happened. Like, how long did Tom Landry coach the Cowboys? I mean, we've seen it happen. It can happen to you. So same thing with Shula in Miami. It can happen to you. You can coach these teams for a decade or two, and eventually you're probably going to get fired. So, I mean, that's an unfortunate reality of the business, Yeah,
that's
a good career.
That's what Bum Phillips said. Bum Phillips said there's two types of coaches, those that have been fired and those that will be fired.
That's the only way.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the future of Bill, Don?
Well, he's a great coach. He's a legend. I mean, just like we were talking about Landry and Shula, and I throw Dan Reeves. And I love Dan Reeves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's Don Coryell. There's another one, but I just think that eventually the clock strikes midnight. Any profession you're in, it's going to end, and hopefully it ends on your terms, and hopefully Belichick will know that when his time comes, he'll know to step aside. Same with Nick Saban at the college level. I mean, it's sometimes just time to duck out. I would hate to see him just as a football fan. I'd hate to see him have some mediocre season and get axed. I would like to see him go out with the winning record, maybe a playoff run. But, that's not in my hand, not my control.
Don, should the Cowboys draft Notre Dame tight end Meyer at 26, or should they try to trade up and get Bijan?
Taking Bijan would make a lot of sense, which means Jerry Jones won't do it. I would. This is going to sound like I'm a heretic. Maybe I should be burned at the stake, but I would love to see Bijan go to Philadelphia.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh man.
Wait a minute. I got to make sure we're live here. Don said.
And so look. I'm really not and you might know this by now, James. I mean, I know the Cowboys. I can talk to Cowboys. I'm like a give or take Cowboy fan. I don't live with them. I don't die with them. They're not my ride or die. And actually, no team in the NFL is. I go for teams that have a lot of Texas Longhorns on them.
Ah, interesting.
That's why I like Baltimore. They got Devin Duvernay. They got Justin Tucker, and so yeah. I mean,
and then
I watched the Broncos. So they got Caden Stearns, and I would love to see BJ. I want BJ to go to Philadelphia because he'll win. He'll get yard.
Don, you were all right until you mentioned the Ratbirds. Don, why don't you rank the AFC East? Is Aaron Rodgers the best quarterback in his division?
If you asked me that 4 years ago, I'd say yes, but he's behind Josh Allen. Josh Allen, his trajectory is going up. Aaron Rodgers is going down. They're meeting about right there. So he's second behind Josh Allen.
Reggie, some people put a healthy Tua ahead of him also. What's your thoughts?
Well, Tua's rarely healthy like now, so I understand that for the games that Tua may play, but it's hard, man. It's hard because I do believe it's one of those situations where you say, do I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Josh Allen? Okay. But if I had to start a team with Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers, it's not even a thought. I'm taking Josh Allen a million times over Aaron Rodgers every single time. So I believe Aaron Rodgers, maybe he breathes life into the Jets. I mean, the Jets have been horrible at the quarterback position. They haven't had somebody since Broadway Joe. That's crazy. When Broadway Joe was your last competent quarterback on your team, and Aaron Rodgers walks in there and instantly becomes the second best quarterback on your team, and he's been there for like an hour. I mean, you breathe life into the team, but it's hard. I mean, I think Josh Allen deserves benefit of the doubt here right now. Like, until we see it happen, guys, I don't think we should just look at it and think automatically put Aaron Rodgers over Josh Allen in that division. So I'm going to still stick with Josh Allen until I see what this team actually looks like.
Reggie, one sports writer says that the Jets got fleeced paying that much and giving up those draft picks for an Aaron Rodgers that may only be there a year or two at the most. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say they would have gotten fleeced until they put that addendum in there to move the picks up depending on how many games he plays. So I think the McAfee show interview spooked them. They had to go back to the board because they're like, this guy says he's going to be retired. Now we're thinking we're getting a guy that's going to come in for 2 or 3 years, might only be here for 17 games. And that worries you, giving up a lot for something like that. So I think that since they adjusted that contract, I think it's a better contract. And the Jets, I think, are in more win now mode. What else are they going to do? I mean, we just talked about the Broadway Joe situation. What else are you going to do? Like, you got to take a swing here at some point. And I believe they took the swing they had to take.
Well, I mean, that 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 Super Bowl trophy has to have a lot of dust. Did they put diamonds on the Super Bowl rings back then? I'm not sure. Wow. I'm trying to think. What year was that?
It was in a sick man. It was Broadway Joe. I want to say it was Super Bowl III. I want to say like it was like I want to say the single digit Super Bowl. I want to say Super Bowl III is the first AFC win for an AFC team when he guaranteed that W.
Donna, I think we still had propeller airplanes.
Yeah.
Wow. Just showing our age here. Donna, the Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts is now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Donna, I'm sure you appreciated him showing up to his press conference with a tie, suit and tie, and that old school look. Don, but is it too much too soon, or is it cheaper to keep Hurts now?
Well, I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan, by the way.
Oh man, twice. I got to make sure. Oh my goodness.
Roll Tide, fellas. I'm just gonna put it out there.
But I kept up this career even when I was in high school over in Channelview near Houston. Kid's a gamer. He's a player, and he won at Alabama and he won at Oklahoma and he's winning at Philly. So let me just say this: I like that he's getting the money. I'm not sure if he's worth all that. He's definitely in the top 10 of quarterbacks in the league, but he's not at that Mahomes level just yet. He's not at the Josh Allen level just yet. He's up there, but is he worth all that money to be the highest rated, or the highest paid QB? I just don't see him being worth it. So that's not saying he won't be there eventually, but when you sign contracts like that, it starts an arms race, and so when Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, when their contracts come up, they'll be, well, hey, I've won more Super Bowls than Jalen Hurts, and I got better pass efficiency rating. So where's my money? That's what happens.
What's your thoughts, Reggie? 178 mil guaranteed.
Yes.
Is it 51 mil a year?
Yes. Well, first thing I'd say is roll Tide. Absolutely, I'm very happy for Jalen. I'm very happy that he got paid. And also, guys, this is the NFL. He's going to be the highest paid for like an hour and a half until Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert come up. It's always the last person to pay.
Joe Burrow, they don't have to worry about Joe Burrow because they just picked up.
He picked up his 5th year, but you best believe
his 5th year on his rookie.
That means they're working on that Brinks truck that they're going to have to back up to him. And I feel like what the Eagles did, get ahead of the Brinks truck, guys. Don't do what these other teams do. Get ahead of the Brinks truck. Because those other guys gonna get it. You don't want to pay your guys after other guys get paid, because you're gonna have to pay them a higher number than what that last guy got paid. Just like the Josh Allen is a good example. He's a great player, but since Josh has never been to the Super Bowl, it's something that Hurts will have over him. Hurts was just in the last Super Bowl, so it's something that he could always say. So, and he didn't ask for that fully guaranteed situation. I believe that he went about this way better than Lamar is going about it. When you look at how Lamar Jackson is handling his contract situation, I like how Jalen Hurts has handled his. He didn't come in and he didn't say, I want an entire guaranteed contract like the Cleveland Browns, like everybody's trying to emulate the Cleveland Browns. Nobody wants to do what the Cleveland Browns are doing in any shape, form, or fashion. So nobody wants to pay a guy $250 million guaranteed. It's crazy. So I do think this is just, he's the highest paid until we see what Joe Burrow's contract is going to look like. And then we got to see what Justin Herbert's contract is going to look like. And then those guys are going to leapfrog each other, in my opinion. And these highest paid guys, too, is per annum. We're still in the Deshaun Watson world of the 230 guaranteed being the absolute most money guaranteed. So his can get there with some escalators. But I believe he's an adult. You know, you got an adult in the room. I think that's something that factors into it. A guy that you can have come out there and represent your team on a Sunday at the podium. He's good at the podium. He's good for the teammates seem to like him. So there's nothing that I dislike about this. I think they did a good job because they got ahead of the Burrow Herbert contracts, because those contracts would be massive.
Reggie, where's Waldo? I mean, Zeke.
That's so disrespectful. You know, this is why I thought they were going to take Bijan, guys, because I thought that you get Zeke out of there. Zeke is also the reason why quarterbacks other running backs can't get paid. I think we're out of the running backs getting paid business, guys. At least for the foreseeable future, I think teams are out on that. I think two things have ruined running backs getting paid. One is Isaiah Pacheco, 7th round guy, running all over the people in the Super Bowl. So that doesn't look good for why would we ever take a 1st round guy. We just watch the 7th round guy do it. And 2, Zeke. Zeke got paid and collapsed. So when you see that happen, you're not itching to turn around and be the next Zeke or the team that signs the next Zeke. It was obvious for the last year or two, in my opinion, guys, that Tony Pollard was a better back in Dallas. It was very, very obvious. And I think that Jerry was not one to come off that because of what they're paying Zeke. You know, sometimes you pay a guy and hope he lives up to what you pay him, but it just doesn't happen. And that's what happened in Dallas. So I hope he doesn't pop up here in Atlanta. I'll tell you that. I'm not interested in a goal line back, because that's what Zeke is. He's a goal line back right now, guys. And I believe he can get it at a cheaper price than what he's been paid. I'm not sure what he's going to have to sign for.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he's a Mark Ingram.
My goodness.
Okay? I mean, you know, basically that's what he's been regulated to. What's your thoughts there, Don?
Well, I agree totally. The first time I saw Pollard carry the ball, I was like, holy shit. He's what, out of Memphis or somewhere like that? Like, you know, it's probably a 3-star recruit at Memphis going against the 5-star Ohio State guy, and he's outperforming him. So yeah, I you know, Zeke, you know, he had 2 or 3 good years, but I mean,
Don had to start us off. So
yeah.
Always loved the music though. So OBJ agrees to a 1-year contract with the Ratbirds for $15 million guaranteed. Don, after all the stuff with that went down with Lamar, were you surprised that the Ratbirds gave OBJ a guaranteed contract?
You know, Baltimore is a pretty decent franchise, but they're making some decisions now that are head scratchers. I would not sign OBJ to that kind of contract. I don't know what they're thinking. You know, they're having to put up with, you know, the situation with Lamar. The Ravens, like I said, they are a last several years they've been a good solid organization, but they're like committing what's the Japanese call it, ritual harikiri.
Yeah.
I mean, don't do that, dude. Don't. That's not the way you want to do things, business wise, anyway.
What's your thoughts there on the OBJ contract, Reggie?
I couldn't agree more. This is a Lamar please stay contract. You know, at one point in I don't know if you guys remember when LeBron was in the East, he was getting all kinds of guys paid. You know, Gauskas was getting paid, all kinds of guys. Tristan Thompson was getting paid. LeBron was getting all kinds of guys paid. And then he leave and go to a different team, but and you're stuck with that player. I really believe that this is what's happening here with the Ravens. They're going to pay him. They're going to try to pay D-Hop, which I would have paid D-Hop way before I paid OBJ. You're paying a guy in OBJ who has played probably 2 healthy seasons since he's been with the Giants. Missed all of last year, guys, and got a $15 million contract with the Ravens. Now, the Ravens are an organization, and I think we had this conversation a while back, James, when I was talking about the Lamar Jackson situation. Because some people are like, oh, Lamar Jackson, look at his record with the Ravens. Well, look at the records Ravens without Lamar Jackson. The Ravens in the last 20 years have like 2 or 3 losing seasons. And from what I remember, Lamar's only played there the last 4 years, and he hasn't even played all of those years. So the Ravens are a winning organization. They've been a winning organization for a couple of decades. I don't understand this. When I saw this number, this came across to me as a please stay Lamar contract. And this is just in the hopes of getting Lamar back into the room because he had OBJ and Hopkins was on his list, you know. So, and that also told me that he wasn't all the way gone. When you're making a list to stay, that you're not all the way gone. And the Ravens are doing their part. Luckily, it's only 1 year, but this is absolutely ridiculous. I think OBJ is great if Cooper Kupp's on the other side of him. OBJ is great if he has another number one receiver. Let's send him to the Eagles and have A.J. Brown on one side and OBJ. Okay, then now I get it. But then you're paying a secondary receiver $15 million. And I believe he's a 2 more than a 1. And he hasn't even played, guys. He hasn't played in a year. So I'm not sure where the common sense is here in the organization that doesn't usually make these kinds of mistakes.
Yeah, you would think after seeing OBJ with Cleveland, with Baker Mayfield, remember that was supposed to be the aerial circus right there, you know, Mayfield and OBJ, and how'd that turn out?
I think he had like 3 touchdowns with them. Like
So now, hey, Baltimore, let's throw good money after bad. Yeah, crazy.
Speaking of throwing good money after bad, my Steelers acquired wide receiver Allen Robinson from the Rams. And Robinson says, I have a lot of football left in me. Now, personally, I'm not buying that. And I know you need a veteran presence when you still have a rookie quarterback and your wide receiving core is relatively young. But I don't see this being a winning combination. This, to me, I would even say that that Robinson is a 3. But what's your thoughts, Don? After seeing the Rams,
I think when it comes right down to it, you're signing a guy who, like I said, might be your number 3. Here's a question. Is he going to be a good influence in the locker room? Is he going to be a good influence to the younger guys? Is he going to be a leader? If that is yes, I say bring him on board and, you know, give him a chance. But if he's, you know, if he becomes a cancer or something like that, then, you know, that's a bad deal. It's going to backfire on you. So hopefully he comes in with the right attitude. You know, he said, well, I have some good years still left. Well, prove it. Let's just see what you got. Let's see what you bring to the table.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be, you know, a headache like Antonio Brown or some of our guys. Yes, but what's your thoughts there, Reggie? Allen Robinson, days numbered or what?
Man, it's a man. Like, this just doesn't really move the meter for me. You know, I'm when I look at the Steelers, that's my secondary team behind the Falcons. I love the Steelers. I'm still trying to figure Kenny Pickett out. I don't have him figured out yet. And until I figure him out, that's the only thing I'm really concerned about with the Steelers. Defense is going to be there. I love Mike Tomlin. The Steelers they're going to be in it. But without, this is a quarterback league, guys. And in the AFC, look at the quarterbacks you're going up against. You're running Kenny Pickett up against Mahomes and Herbert and Burrow, and Kamara's going to sign somewhere. And now you got Rodgers in the AFC. You're running into these things with Kenny Pickett. I'm not sold even on that yet. So it's hard for me to even get to Robinson. Robinson was underwhelming. He did better in Chicago than he did with the Rams. He was underwhelming with the Rams.
Yeah.
Last year. So does he have a lot of football left in him? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how productive that football is going to be with the Steelers right now. I don't think I wouldn't put him in over Pickens. Pickens will still be my 1, right? As a kid.
Yeah.
When I win his confidence. And I don't think that he's done anything to not be the number 1 guy there.
No, he has the right attitude, the whole 9 yards. So
yeah, I think he's going to be a 2 receiver and borderline 3, like you said. So I'm not really sure. And the questions about the Steelers are all going to be answered by Kenny Pickett for me for right now.
Since you had mentioned it, Reggie, the Packers general manager says that the team is not looking to rebuild. But do you think that the Packers moving on from Rodgers puts more or less pressure on Jordan Love?
Definitely more. I don't see how the guy in front of you leaves and then there's less pressure. Like there's more. And I see why GMs say that they're not in a rebuild, because they might not be around for the rebuild. They might be fired before it actually happens. But I really feel like when your best player leaves any team, guys, whether it's NFL, MLB, or NBA, when your best player leaves, you are in a rebuild whether you want to be in one or not. Like you might not, you're going to say all the right things because you still need to sell tickets. You don't want your fans. You're not selling a rebuild price ticket. You still want them to come out and put butts in the seats. But at the same time, I don't think you're fooling anybody. Is anybody scared of the Packers? Is anybody scared of Jordan Love? I mean, y'all got to tell me. I'm not. I don't know what teams fear a Jordan Love-led Packers at this point in time.
Don, you got an answer for that?
Well, I think the Packers with Jordan Love, I mean, that's who they're going to have to go with. I mean, that's just, we talk about rebuilding and all that. Well, whenever you lose a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who will go down as, one of the legends, but he's still a weird dude, right? So you got to hope that Jordan Love can take the things that Aaron Rodgers did well and translate on the field, but kind of stay away from the controversies and trust your teammates. Don't try to put too much on your shoulders. This will be your first year of really taking the team, so. He just needs to play his game and kind of separate himself from all the pressure. I think the one quarterback in the league who absolutely handles pressure unbelievably is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that kid, he always has a smile on his face. He's just so loosey-goosey, and I think Jordan Love needs to kind of have that attitude, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but
you
can have that attitude. Go ahead.
As Mahomes, he's always smiling. He always has that little shitty grin on his face.
Yeah,
he's out there having fun. He's having fun.
It's one thing to have the attitude. It's another thing to have the attitude and the talent.
Right.
Don, the Titans GM says he hasn't received any trade calls concerning Derrick Henry. But the salary cap says that they really can't afford him. Do you think that Derrick Henry will rework his contract, Don?
I don't know enough about Derrick Henry's mindset to know if he would be willing to renegotiate. I know that guy is like almost. I'm kind of compare him to the old Earl Campbell. When Earl Campbell was healthy back in those days. I mean, he'll run through you, run over you, run around you, whatever. On the other hand, he's the shelf life of an NFL quarterback is very limited. So I would like to see him get what he's worth, and I think he's worth a lot. But I don't know whether or not the Titans can fit him in on the whole salary cap issue.
Reggie, what's your thoughts? Derrick Henry in a Titans uniform next year?
I think it's another casualty of Ezekiel Elliott in his contract. Nobody wants to pay running backs, guys. It is not sexy. People don't want to do it. People don't want to pay running backs no more. It's over. We've seen Isaiah Pacheco, those young legs run all over everybody in this Super Bowl. Round 7, 7th round pick, guys, making a fraction of what these running backs are making. And I think the number for Derrick Henry, I think he's making around $10 million, and that's not crazy. OBJ is making 15, right? OBJ is making $15 million. Derrick Henry can't get even 10.
Well, Derrick Henry, his hit against is supposed to be $16 million against the salary cap.
Oh man, it'd be see you later, Derrick. If that hit, I love Derrick Henry. Roll Tide, man. I don't want to see that happen. But can we really look around the league, guys, and say it's worth paying a running back $16 million? Which running back is worth $16 million? Now, if there ever was one, I'd say it's Derrick Henry. But that's not leading to postseason success. You need a competent quarterback. We know how to get the postseason. And, guys, you can argue with what A.J. Brown just did with the Eagles and what Tyreek Hill just did down in Miami, that the wide receivers are moving quite a little bit ahead of running backs as far as importance. Like, you're going to need to draft one of these guys high, and you're going to need to pay one of those guys. But with your running backs, you're seeing time and time again, even here in Atlanta, we got this kid Algier, went for 1,000 yards last year. People can't even tell me what round he got drafted in. Went for 1,000 yards last year.
Well, Derrick Henry got his 1,500 last. What was it? 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns.
I feel like they are going to use these running backs up while they can, and then they're going to get rid of them. That's the new day and age we're in, guys. We're in to where if a running back can get to a team exercise or franchise tagging them, because a team now can draft a running back, have them for a few years, tag them for 2 more, and now you got your 5 years out of the guy. And you haven't paid them an extended amount of money. And I feel like that's the blueprint now. Teams are going to rookie contract you. Maybe you can play for a franchise tag at the end of that rookie contract. And then you're going to have to start looking around at where other teams will pay you. I think another team might pay Derrick Henry. And I like Derrick Henry, man. Old school guy. You know, that old school back running you over. Jim Brownish. You know, he's going to run you over. But it's kind of like, unfortunately, in today's – it's like a center in basketball, guys. In today's NFL – it's an air game now. Like the running backs are a complement to what your quarterback can do. And I think a good running back, I think he can be good on a championship team. I just don't know if at that cap number, if that cap number is 16 million, I don't know. I don't think a lot of teams would be itching to pay anywhere near 10 to 15 million for him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 16 plus, but we'll see. But you can look it up to make sure. Reggie, no Juju Smith-Schuster, no Marcel Hardman. What about Mahomes to D-Hop? What's your thought?
What I hear, D-Hop, the Ravens are really high on him. And I think D-Hop's a great player anywhere he goes, man. If you remember back when the Texans were actually good, he was on that team. Him and J.J. Watt. At once upon a time, guys, the Texans were not a dumpster fire. And they had D-Hop and they had J.J. Watt. They had Deshaun Watt. They had a good team. And it's crazy now we look at that team now. I think D-Hop's going to be good wherever he goes. Like a veteran dependent, and a lot of guys is going to depend on his money. What kind of money does he want? Where he's going? And how much does he feel he has left in the tank? When it comes to Mahomes, guys, it's Mahomes and question mark. He can throw to anybody out there. He's proven time and time again. People have said, oh, look, Tyreek's leaving. Well, they only won the Super Bowl after that. So I'm not worried about Mahomes as long as that sentence starts with Mahomes. It's kind of like Brady, guys. If you look at Brady's career, look how many guys Brady got paid that were random guys that went to teams and just were just guys on teams. So as long as that sentence starts with Mahomes, I trust him throwing to anybody out there.
See, I don't think, and this is just looking cosmetically at it, I'm not even thinking about the other ramifications. But if the Ravens paid D-Hop and paid OBJ,
you got to pay me more than OBJ if I'm D-Hop, by the way. There's no
right.
way in hell I'm not going for that.
Right. So is that sending the wrong message to Lamar Jackson if they also acquired D-Hop and they still don't?
That's what he asked for. He asked for them he asked for literally these 2 players.
He also asked for a guaranteed contract.
But ain't nobody giving him that, though. You're not getting any callers on that. There's some crickets in that department.
Don, what do you think? I mean, having your druthers, if you're B-Hop, Mahomes to B-Hop or Jackson to D-Hop?
I would love to see D-Hop and Mahomes team up. I would love to see that.
It'd be amazing to watch, right?
That would, yeah. And like Reggie said, Mahomes would throw at anybody. It'd be nice to throw to D-Hop. I mean, you talk about Brady. I mean, Brady created careers out of 5'9" white kids, catching the ball.
Several, by the way.
Yeah. So, I mean, some homes can do that too. I mean, it's just, it helps have those good tight ends as well if you're a quarterback like Mahomes. But yeah, so hopefully Hopkins will end up in Kansas City, and we'll see some of the stuff that Lamar and OBJ could only dream of.
Well, last topic and final thoughts, guys. The Lions lose wide receiver Jameson Williams. If you had him in fantasy, he did pretty well for you last year.
Yeah.
CJ Moore, backup safety. Two others, they were suspended by the NFL and subsequently cut by the Lions for gambling. And we have another minor player also. But Donna, what's your thoughts here? I mean, these guys were suspended indefinitely, which means at least a year. Is this another Pete Rose situation? I mean, when are guys going to finally get it through their head that you cannot bet on teams?
I tell you, I guess the temptation's right there. I don't get it though. I mean, about Pete Rose. I mean, Pete Rose got banned in what, 1979? Is that right? 78, 79?
78, 79. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's still banned. I mean, we're talking like a whole generation later. So
a few generations later.
Yeah. So professional sports takes their gambling stations very, very seriously. So we talk about these guys might be out for a year or two. They might be out for the rest of their lives.
The suspension is indefinite. They can come back after a year if the NFL says so.
Right.
But I mean, we had, who was that just came back, Reggie, last
Calvin
year?
Ridley.
For gambling. I mean,
oh well, okay. Well,
shouldn't you? I mean, shouldn't that
should have learned from Calvin Ridley?
I mean,
well, the NFL is a lot more, I guess, tolerant. But if you look at like Major League Baseball, I mean, going back to the 1919 Black Sox with Shoeless Joe Jackson and it's about Pete Rose. I mean, when you're suspended by Major League Baseball, it's a done deal. There is no reprieve. There's no call from the governor for a pardon. You're out. And I guess maybe the NFL might be a little bit more lenient. I don't know about the NBA. I can't think of anyone they did have an official get booted from the NBA, right?
Yeah.
So it happens in all sports, I guess. They say soccer is probably the most corrupt sport. So
definitely when it comes to the World Cup, for sure.
Yeah. Your final thoughts, John?
Final thoughts. Well, it's good being on the show tonight. I'm still keeping Demetrius in our prayers. I haven't heard anything, so bless his family. And so Bill. If Bill were here,
I haven't heard anything since his wife has passed, and
she did.
Yes.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
I knew she was in hospice. That's last I heard. But
she's passed, and I'm trying to give him some room and
definitely
not be very invasive, but that was a very tragic loss for him and his family. So
absolutely, I lost my wife back in 2013, so I can empathize. But final thoughts. Well, it's good to be back on the show. Tomorrow is the draft, and I'm really looking forward to next week so we can talk about the draft. Reggie may not know this, but back in the day, we used to do the show on Thursday nights, and we would do a draft. But we just talked the draft as it went. It was kind of like a live stream, but we'll have plenty to talk about that. But it was good seeing y'all, and y'all have a great week.
Yes, sir. Pleasure having you on, Don. Always look forward to talking with you. And yeah, we'll be talking about what happens tomorrow night, especially next week. Um, Reggie, your thoughts on the gambling and your final thoughts. Good. You can stay with us tonight, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Look forward to having you back whenever you can.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure being on with you guys. Talks to sports. Prayers up for Demetrius and his family. That's horrible. First and foremost, when it comes to the gambling, I mean, this is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen, to be honest with you guys, because sometimes people say things like, I'm not breaking the law. Well, at my job, they have 3 colors that we can wear. You gotta wear a button down, maybe you wear a tie, maybe you don't. You can wear white, black, or gray. It's not illegal for me to wear blue. It's not, I'm not breaking any laws. But if I come into my job where they've plainly laid out what the rules of engagement are, and I decide to break said rule, then I deserve whatever punishment comes with that. And that's kind of where we are here with the gambling. Don't gamble on site. The guys that got caught gambling were gambling on the Lions facilities. That's why they got hit with a harder. And some of them were gambling. No, the guys that got caught gambling in the Lions facilities got the lesser penalties because they weren't gambling on football. The other guys were gambling on football, so they got indefinite suspensions. They're going to have to come grovel back to the NFL after the season's over and hopefully get let back in next season. But everybody learn from other people's mistakes. It's so much easier to learn from others' mistakes. Calvin Ridley got suspended literally last year for this exact same thing. He literally had to sit out an entire year for gambling. DraftKings or whatever you're gambling on cannot be worth the amount of money you can lose in your career doing something like this. So my thoughts on the gambling, which is just dumb. I don't knock gambling in general. And I heard that Ford Field has like an MGM something at the field. So I'm not knocking gambling in of itself, but the rules are what the rules are, and they're posted. And that's the same thing that got kind of Pete Rose into this situation, even though I believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. What got Pete Rose into the situation is you knew the rules of engagement and you knowingly broke them. So it's hard to feel sorry for people that understand. And I love Jameson Williams too. I was really looking forward to him, guys. So I was looking forward to seeing what he did because he was injured parts of this year. I was really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do next year. So that's a big disappointment. And that's kind of like what my final thought is. Learn from others' mistakes, ladies and gentlemen. It's much easier than trying to learn from your own. There's a lot of mistakes out here you can just see people making and learn from those. And here's the hoping that we have an interesting draft tomorrow, guys. Look forward to coming back on and discussing that with you.
All right, guys. Well, hey, have a great week, great weekend, and look forward to talking to everybody next Wednesday. And hopefully, by the way, we will be having our Sports Crib League again this year. We'll have our Don, as you mentioned about the draft we used to have. Well, we will have our live Sports Crib League draft as we did last year.
Is that like a fantasy league?
Yes, our fantasy league. We do.
Oh man, pencil me in there, man. I'm definitely down for that.
Well, I'll definitely. I have everybody's email address, so I'll send you invites. It'll be on ESPN. So we'll think about that. I know Bill has sent out some invites for some other teams. Unfortunately, I'm not as old school as Bill. Bill wants to put a 20-team league out there, and I'm
my God.
But the Sports Crib, we usually stick to 10 or 12.
Yeah, yes. I think that's a better number for sure.
Yeah. And this year we will be giving away prizes first, second, and third. So looking forward to fantasy football, guys. Looking forward to the draft. Hope we can see everybody next week. Have a great night. See you next week, everyone.
See you later, fellas.